I would like to talk to you about different kinds of texture. Actual texture is something that's in front of you that you can feel and touch. And simulated texture is something that you're translating onto your paper. So if I'm looking at tree bark or a scarf or some kind of a textured object, and I'm translating that in my drawing, I'm creating simulated texture. First we were talking about line, then shape, then value, and now we are combining all of those and adding texture to the mix. You can begin creating different marks and shapes with your charcoal pencil. You can also create a lot of spontaneous marks with your kneaded eraser. And paying attention to the contrast in the fabric and the light and shadow. But small areas that are very intricate can be well achieved with the charcoal pencil. And you can also vary your pressure from light to dark. Once again, if you want to try adding water, that's another possibility. So this is just a brief example of how you can create texture with charcoal. You can also go over that wet area with charcoal. Depending on the paper, it will work. With this drawing paper here, it's a little harder to create marks over a wet area, but that can certainly be achieved with thicker paper, such as thicker drawing paper or watercolor paper. So, and let's say here I'm going to try and use my ink quill. So this is a handle that comes with a nib. The nib is made out of metal and it has a fine point. Quills are usually used for calligraphy, and these little quill settings vary in the way, in their shape. So you can create different types of lines. So mine is called fine point, and I really enjoy working with them because they can really allow you to create a wide range of lines and marks that are very fine. So when you're drawing, you want the little point to go straight down. And another thing that you could do is add some water in the beginning or after, and start also integrating values. And you can also work over the wet areas and create these really beautiful bleeding effects. And then you can allow them to dry and then go over them with sharper lines, as you can see here. And you can also, I have another color here. Color inks are a lot of fun, so you could incorporate other colors. This is a kind of a dark grayish blue. And let's see what happens when I add some value, some water. That looks really cool. So try it out and see how you like it. So another type of texture is invented texture, and invented texture consists of basically all kinds of marks and little shapes and textures that you create. So I'm just gonna keep working with this and say that, you know, I wanna just make random jaggedy lines that overlap, and that will create an interesting texture. Or you could use some kind of organic shapes. You could do shapes inside of shapes that become texture. You can use texture that's found in nature, such as tree bark, but then abstracted to make it your own. And then another type of invented texture is stippling. So stippling basically consists of small dots or circles, And basically you can create your entire drawing out of stippling just by varying the size of these circles and their placement. So for example, circles that are really small and close together can create dark areas. And then circles that are bigger and further apart can create open areas. So this is something that's common. You kind of have to get rid of that excess ink, go with the flow, and make this part of your work and make it work for you. So I'm just going to make that into some washes. And then I can just keep working. So if I was doing a three-dimensional object, I would, just as I was varying the lines and the placement of lines using cross contour, you can do the same thing by doing the circles, the stippling. And stippling can also be created as individual tiny dots. And in this case, you can't really make it darker or lighter, but you can control the placement. So the dots that are really close together will create dense dark areas, and the dots that are further apart can create more open and lighter areas. So play around and see what happens and how you like it.